Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Slingin Leather, Southern California's official combat sports show. I'm Scuba Steve,
Chino Hernandez.
and this is the first fight week that has been a double fight week ever since last August, where we had Dustin Poirier taking on Justin Gaethje for the UFC's BMF title, as well as the fight of the century with Terrence Crawford taking on Errol Spence Jr. And first and foremost, despite the loaded card we have at UFC 299, we need to talk about this incredible fight between the man who has been at boxing, who has single handedly changed boxing's trajectory and changed its entire perception, Francis Ngannou, taking on the former heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua, this weekend in Chino. This is another loaded card that is set right before UFC 299, isn't it?
Yeah, let's talk boxing. This is massive. Ngannou coming off of like are he arguably a win against Tyson Fury. And then Joshua, Joshua's been demolishing his opponents as of lately. He's been on one hell of a rise as well. And then the co-main event, Zhang versus Parker. Who can talk about that? That's just a massive fight in and of itself. And then obviously Vargas and Nick Ball. It's also a big fight there. So what are your thoughts on the whole? I guess first of all, we can start with Vargas and Nick Ball. What are your thoughts on that? I know Vargas is coming off of a loss. And he's still champion though. He went up in weight, and as you've seen with Canelo, for example, going up in weight against Bivol, and that didn't go his way, unfortunately. But that's boxing. Boxing does what it does. And then Nick Ball, who's an up and coming prospect, undefeated as well. Vargas, two phenomenal fighters. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think? These two are attacking type fighters. Vargas he's bigger, he has a longer range. How do you think Vargas can utilize that for his advantage?
You know, Whenever you have a guy that goes up in weight and, it doesn't go well for them, think of all the guys that this happened with in the UFC as well as boxing. We've seen a lot of these guys go up in weight, such as Jermell Charlo when he went up and fought Canelo. He went in there and, took so much damage from from the bigger guy, from the heavier puncher. And I think the biggest question coming out a lot of those fights is how are they going to respond once they go back to their original weight class. And with Ray Vargas, it's really going to test his championship medal, especially in this fight when you have an up and coming prospect who's hungry to get this title. I think it's going to have a lot to do or whether or not his chin is going to be able to hold up when he goes back down. We just saw Alexander Volkanovski
Yeah,
get hit with the perfect punch from Ilya Topuria and be
yeah.
slept after having one of the best chins in the UFC. Sure, he got knocked out by Islam, but mind you, that is one of the most vicious knockouts that we've seen from a guy who's gone up a weight class and attempted to beat the bigger guys. So I think a lot of this is going to labor on Vargas's chin, and just see if he's going to be able to capitalize on the forward pressure of Nick Ball.
Mm. I had seen something on Instagram earlier that said something along the lines of you either retire early and become a GSP, or or you live long enough to get to turn into attorney Tony Ferguson. I
Yeah,
mean, it's how you've seen this with boxing with UFC guys that are staying in the sport too long. I know, we just heard that supposedly Manny Pacquiao is 45. He's coming out of retirement to supposedly fight Conor Benn. Conor Benn is a young animal, vicious animal. But that's a whole nother spiel, a whole nother story that we can dive into in another episode. But my point is, I mean, there's this trend of guys who just have that deep attachment to the sport, to just fighting. Period. You've seen this often. Tony Ferguson, obviously, I just mentioned, prime example of a guy who just can't let go. But
mm,
again, Vargas, although he is getting to that age, and he does look a lot older than what he actually is as well. I will give him that. He looks very old, but he's not that old. It's not like Barroso who fought Romero, who that guy
yeah,
that
no,
guy's definitely old.
that dude looked like my uncle. Like, not even gonna lie, like he looked a little bit up there in age, but he
Yeah.
had a great showing for the age he was at, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, but yeah, Vargas is just I mean, the way I see it happening is Vargas, he has such a long reach, he's so tall. And also he's champion. He's been in there with the best. Nick Ball, on the other hand, he's not too familiar with being there with the best. You know that he's had some good competition from what I've seen. And Nick Ball is a he's definitely a prospect coming up, but Ray Vargas, I mean, he's the champ. He's been there. He has the experience, and he's not that old either, to the point where um he's out of his prime. And although yes, he's coming off of a loss, I think arguably that might make him even better. Might make him even hungrier um to come back and be better. We've seen it time and time again with many guys who just they get one loss. Canelo, for example, loses against Floyd Mayweather, then goes on a huge unbeaten streak, facing the best of boxing. So honestly, with that being said, I think Vargas is I don't know if he's gonna get the knockout, but I think he's gonna be able to keep Nick Ball at the end of his jab in reach. And yeah, I think he's just gonna outbox Nick Ball. I don't think Nick Ball is gonna be able to handle the reach, and especially when you he's really small compared to Vargas. I mean, I remember seeing today in the weigh-in this morning, he's tiny.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's gonna be a good fight though. Vargas is one of those guys who he just has that fighting blood, that blood to just go after it. So I'm kind of excited to see how he handles that loss, whether he took it well, learned from it, or I mean if he goes downhill. So, but with that being said, I think I got Vargas by decision.
And I think the championship experience that we've talked about in several other videos and how that can play into a fighter's favor is going to show itself here. I mean, Vargas is a seasoned veteran, and despite the fact he's coming off a loss, again, we said this before with many other fighters who we think is going to have the experience factor, um, and watched them got beaten. I think it's going to play a bigger role in this fight, considering how young Ball is, and certainly the tangibles with him being much smaller. I would also agree. I'd say that I'd have Vargas. I mean, it's going to be tough to stop the young kid, but I mean, I don't see Vargas getting being in too much trouble during the course of this fight, and I have him at least getting through this by decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And next up, especially with a like one of heavyweight division's most bright and I mean one of their biggest breakthrough stars, and Zhale Zhang taking on Joseph Parker. You know, Zhale Zhang has looked like a completely different boxer in those past two fights against Joe Joyce, hasn't he?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, you look at the first fight, he seemed almost gassed. I mean, he mauled Joe Joyce. He completely
Yeah.
mauled Joe Joyce. And then by the second fight, the one thing that all heavyweights feared is a Zhang with cardio. The one thing, and he showed that he got that, and that you know, age age can be deceiving. He's old, yes, but man, can he punch? He has such power, and I mean, I haven't seen someone like him in a while. And although yes, he's slow. But man, one thing about him is he can take a punch. I mean, you've seen the punches that Joe Joyce was throwing against him, and although Joyce may not have the greatest power, I mean, it's heavyweight. Every punch like that, a big punch can knock out anyone in heavyweight. So Shane can take a punch. I mean, this is such an exciting fight. And then Joseph Parker coming off of a amazing win against Deontay Wilder. I mean, you gotta give him credit too because he took Deontay Wilder's right hand like it was nothing. Although
Mhm.
Deontay didn't throw it much, he took it like it was nothing. So these two are coming off of amazing wins. This is the perfect time for a fight like this to happen, and I think that fans are starting to look at this and kind of see the hype behind this fight. This is and Jane coming in at 291 pounds, damn near 300. That's wild.
That's a hefty boy right there.
Yeah, and
That's a
he
big
doesn't
guy, right?
look fat either. He does not look fat either. He looks built. Like you would expect someone near 300 to be a little bit chubby. Like you got Tyson Fury who looks chubbier than Jane. So
Yeah,
that says
exactly.
something. Jane is
And
a dangerous man.
I think a big question about this is with this added weight, with this added muscle, because as you said, it wasn't like he put on fat. It's noticeable that he looks a bit more trim and a bit more bulky. Do you, I, it's a real question as to whether or not that weight's going to play into his ability to keep the pace going. Again, Joseph Parker may have taken as many right hands as Deontay Wilder threw at him, but they're not going to be in the same volume as what Zhang Zhang can provide in his fights, especially with Joseph Parker. It's not like he was throwing haymakers. A lot of these were
Yeah,
calculated punches that were made to land clean rather than meant to knock Joe Joyce out with one punch. I think it's going to
yeah,
be really interesting to see how Joseph Parker's chin holds up going down the stretch. Again, and it's also going to be interesting to see if Zhang Zhang is going to fall victim to exactly what George Foreman fell victim to in his first fight against Ali. And I think that's going to be a real discussion here as to who emerges victorious in this fight.
yeah. And I love that you made that reference with Ali and George Foreman. I mean, I just watched that the other weekend. I rewatched us. What a fight. But you know, now that I think about it, now that you mentioned that, it does give that kind of vibe because Parker is obviously obviously has more footwork. He bounces around the ring more. We saw that with Deontay Wilder. He's more of a boxer, kind of like Ali-esque, where Ali was bouncing around the ring, and obviously two complete different fighters. Ali is obviously levels above Joseph Parker, but in comparison, I totally see that. And Shane being that slow but powerful heavyweight who can take a punch. Jorman Foreman had never been um, knocked out before. He was undefeated before fighting Ali. He was a dangerous man. So yeah, it's a really good fight. You know, I know you mentioned with the weight, oftentimes, what I think of is that, you know, you add more muscle and muscle takes it's heavier, so you get tired quicker. So I'm not sure if that's gonna benefit Shane. I mean, it goes to show that he really trained hard for this fight, and maybe that will benefit him. But if that is something of concern, something that will actually end up tiring him out, he better hope he knocks out Joseph Parker in the beginning because Joseph Parker is gonna keep coming. He's gonna keep boxing you out.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't find your rhythm, if you can't find those punches, then you might, I don't think Joseph Parker's gonna knock him out, but I think that Joseph Parker can definitely outbox it, which is what we saw with Deontay Wilder. So um yeah, but Zhang, I mean, how are you gonna he's so much bigger than Parker. How is someone like that, how is Parker gonna keep off Zhang? Joe Joyce couldn't. So that's why I'm a little bit worried for Parker because if Joe Joyce couldn't keep off Zhang, I I don't know who will.
It's really going to have to do with head movement at the end of the day, isn't it, though? Because Joseph Parker, I mean, he's certainly more elusive than Joe Joyce is. And you could see that in the Wilder fight. And at the very least, I think he's going to be able to slip the majority of Zhang's shots again. In the early going, he is going to have a bull coming at him at full speed that is looking to finish the fight early, despite however he may feel about his cardio. But it's more so, is he going to be able to evade the shots while they're at their hardest? We've already seen he has the chin.
Yeah,
It's really going to be a question whether or not he's going to be able to take the shots in the early going, or if Zhang's able to keep the power throughout the entirety of the fight. Again, those Joe Joyce fights did not go very long. They were finished rather quickly. And I think that since Zhang sort of showed that he's going to have, I mean, this sort of forward pressure, that's not going to change. If the punches aren't coming with the same amount of steam, then I think Joseph Parker has a great opportunity to outbox Zhang Zhang in this fight.
absolutely. I mean, one thing though I do want to know is that we saw a different look to Zhang last time around with with his recent fight with Joe Joyce, the most recent one. We saw a patient, although it didn't went that long in the fight, we saw a patient Zhang, a Zhang who kind of waited to see, who analyzed Joe Joyce to see what mistakes. I mean, the knockout, obviously, I think by the end of it we can see it was gonna come, but the leading up to that knockout, it was a patient Zhang, one who was kind of analyzing, calculating, seeing every move. And that's a dangerous, dangerous fighter because with a guy like that power, he's going to be analyzing Parker throughout the whole fight, kind of seeing what quirks, what kind of mistakes he makes. And as the fight goes on, is you know, that might aid to his cardio as well, his endurance with you know, being patient, just waiting it out till he finds that one opening. So Yeah, he has an interesting style, and Zhang is a dangerous man. I can't stress that enough. I mean, Joseph Parker is good, but honestly, I don't know if I see the fight going any other way, but a Zhang KO. I mean, who can't love Zhang? Zhang is such a humble guy, and top of that, he's a dangerous thing. He reminds you a little bit of Manny Pacquiao in the sense of Manny Pacquiao never talked crap. He was very, although he's quieter than Manny Pacquiao, you don't hear much from him. But he's a quiet fighter and he's very humble. So I think a lot of people like Zhang for that. But yeah, I don't know if I can see Parker being able to stay in the distance with how big Zhang is and just how much power he holds. I mean, I think Zhang is gonna just end up crossing the ring or cutting out the ring, not letting Parker do what he does best, and that's like outbox and kind of float around there. So I think Zhang is gonna utilize his size to just cut off the ring, um, jabbing, and then with what we saw with Joe Joyce, just being patient, that aspect of patience, because there's that saying, "Good things come to those who wait," and I think Zhang is gonna utilize that kind of mentality tomorrow night and ultimately get the KO, just like he did with Joe Joyce. So it'll be really interesting though. If Parker can pull it off, that might be one of the biggest upsets in a little while. Because I mean, on paper at least, Parker does not seem like he has much of a chance. But yeah,
Yeah, I definitely get what you're hearing, and what you mentioned about patience, I feel like that's going to be the deciding factor. If Jaylee gets too trigger happy or gets, for example, gets Parker hurt in the early going, ends up blowing off a lot of his steam and misses some of his punches, it could lead to his undoing. But if, like you mentioned, if he looked like he did in the second Joe Joyce fight specifically, I feel that I still think he has a great chance to knock out Joseph Parker, especially if he has that smothering pressure rather than trying to stay at range. If he's able to weigh on him a little bit and tie him up a little bit and sort of slow Parker down, I think he's going to have a much easier time getting the win. I don't think it's going to be a quick KO. If I had to make a prediction, I would say that it would probably be, if this works out the way we think it should, with Zhang being a lot more composed like he was in the second fight. I think I could see it being a round 9 knockout, round 10 knockout.
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I can definitely see it being around there. Honestly, with Zhang and his power, I think he might even get it a little bit early. I kind of want to say like something about the numbers 4 and 5. I might want to say Zhang by round 4 or 5. I'm not sure, but that might be a little bit ambitious, but yeah, I don't know. Something's calling me about that number, so I'll say Zhang within 4 or 5. So
Nice, nice. And then just like I'm so excited for this because I've never been so excited for one guy who's gone over to boxing from MMA and gone and done so well, put on arguably the most one of the most important performances in combat sports history, in my own opinion, with Francis Ngannou taking on the former heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua. And we saw how Francis looked in his previous fight with Tyson Fury. He looked like a completely different fighter than he did in MMA. With Francis Ngannou, he doesn't typically switch stances a whole lot in MMA. He has done it before, but again, it's been out of necessity through leg kicks. Like we had during the Stipe fight when he was completely gassed, he was switching stances just to avoid takedowns. And now he's taking on a legitimate contender. Despite Anthony Joshua having a bit of a fall from grace, losing to Usyk, losing to Ruiz, losing to several different heavyweights, I think this is going to be an incredibly important litmus test for Francis Ngannou. Would you agree?
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this fight is massive. And man, if you would have told me like a couple of years ago that Ngannou, the UFC heavyweight champion of the world, would be fighting Anthony Joshua, I'd say you're crazy. I mean, this is
Yeah.
just go. You gotta give Francis Ngannou credit for this. I mean, he's done something that nobody else has, and we've never seen such a success in a crossover. Than Francis Ngannou. I mean, arguably beating Tyson Fury, which I too think he won against Tyson Fury. But man, what he did that day was something special. And maybe it was a fluke. Maybe it was just luck. Maybe it was that Tyson Fury was out of shape. Maybe it wasn't. I don't want to take away credit from Ngannou because Ngannou worked hard for that fight and he did what he did. And regardless of whether Fury trained or not, what happened happened. Ngannou simply dominated Fury and knocked him down as well. But it is a little bit sad to see that he got robbed. I think he got robbed. But Joshua, we know one thing about Joshua is that he's gonna take this as serious as he can, and he's had this kind of melancholy kind of vibe to him, very quiet, very calm, cool, collected within this fight week. Um, he looks ready. He Joshua looks ready, but so does Ngannou. Ngannou obviously came out as more of the flashy one uh this time around, but Joshua, he looks ready.
Mhm.
And I think he's trained as well as he possibly could have. So man, but I never thought I'd be so split between two fighters, especially when you consider Francis Ngannou who came from MMA, which just goes to show just how special of an athlete he is. Um, so yeah, I mean, what do you think about the whole crossover with Francis Ngannou and what he's done within the sport of boxing? I mean, I've never seen anything like it. What do you think?
In general,
Yes.
I mean, let's be honest here. If we're trying to surmise what happened in the first fight to the general public who doesn't know anything about fighting, I've used this comparison several times. It's like if Michael Phelps went out and raced against Usain Bolt in the 100-meter dash in his prime and beat him. That it's just almost completely out of the realm of consideration. Sure, swimming and running are far different, but it's like the greatest tennis player in the world going and beating the greatest ping pong player in the world in on like 6 months training or however little time Francis Ngannou actually had to prepare for Tyson Fury. But it's completely out of the realm of consideration. It's almost as if it's hard to even fathom it happening, which is what made it so important, which is what made it so special. And with this next fight, I'm not going to say it's quite to the same esteem because Tyson Fury is the greatest heavyweight of this generation, without question. But I think this is going to really show just how special Francis Ngannou is at fighting and how special his power is and how special his physicality is for combat sports in general. And I think with Anthony Joshua, he certainly looks locked in. He looks far more locked in than Tyson Fury did in their fight. And in the at the end of the day, you could very well claim that was Tyson Fury's undoing in his fight with Ngannou. But I'm going to be honest with you. I think that Ngannou is going to have an easier time getting to Joshua than he was with Tyson Fury because Tyson's simply he's enormous. Francis Ngannou 6'4", Fury 6'9", Joshua is 6'6", if I'm not mistaken, and there are going to be more opportunities for Francis to land more often. I think Joshua may be the overall faster fighter in terms of hand speed out of the three of them, but I think that his boxing fundamentals are not to the esteem of a Tyson Fury. I mean, especially with a guy like Francis Ngannou who looked completely different. I see this as a winnable fight for Francis Ngannou, but I think he's going to have to make sure to move his head maybe a bit more. I think there was a bit of a lack of head movement in his fight with Tyson Fury, but you could say that about every fight he's had. You know, he doesn't move his head quite a lot in the UFC as well. So I think that if his defense is rock solid, it's only going to be a matter of time as to when he's able to clip Joshua because we've already seen that his chin can be suspect at times.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I gotta ask, I'm blanking out, but who did Anthony Joshua fight recently within the card with Deontay Wilder and Joseph Parker? I don't know why
It
I'm
wasn't
blanking out,
Usyk.
but
Let me
it
see.
was definitely not Usyk. It was man, I don't know why I can't remember this. It
It
wasn't
was
Hellenius because I believe that was before. Yeah, I'll leave the research to
Jermaine
you.
Franklin
Jermaine Franklin. Okay, yes.
Jr. Jermaine
Yes,
Franklin
yes.
Jr. Yeah.
Yes. I think yeah, okay.
He won that one
Yeah.
by a unanimous decision on April Fool's Day, so the first of last year.
Okay, cool. Oh, it's been that long since
Yeah,
Parker
he's
and
been out of the ring for a year. Because think about it,
Joshua.
Yeah, Alexander Usyk, his
Really? What?
second bout with Usyk, that is, where he lost by split decision. That was on August 20th, my dad's birthday, of August 20 of 20
Wait, hold on.
2022.
It wasn't it, no, now I remember. It was Otto Wallen that he fought, not Jermaine Franklin.
Otto
Otto
Wall.
Wallen.
What am I?
Yes.
I should have just gone to Box Rec. Where is this?
Oh, I just searched on
Yeah,
that.
Otto Wallen.
Josh.
Otto Wallen. There you go. Yeah.
Yes, and he did secure the knockout. Now that
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way it's been a year. I was like, I could have sworn
Well, wait. So, okay. No, no, no. I'm sorry. He's fought twice since Jermaine Franklin. He fought Robert Helenius
Hellenius.
and Otto
Hellenius, yeah.
Wallen.
Yes, and Otto Wallen, I remember he fought Fury a while back, and he honestly almost beat Fury. He gave Fury, I don't know if you remember seeing the viral photo, but Fury had a massive gash on his eyebrow. Otto Wallen was the one that gave Fury that gash, and I believe that that went to the full 12, and I know Tyson won against him, but that's why that was such a big fight because Otto Wallen is one of those guys that gave Fury the most trouble that out of everybody that he's fought, besides Wilder. But yeah, besides Wilder, that guy was the closest to beating Fury that anyone was, and Joshua just demolished him. He knocked him out within five. So
Mhm.
just goes to show that Joshua has been almost on another meteoric rise. Although he had the couple losses within the past couple years, the little bit of the downfall, but yeah, I mean Joshua, his past couple fights have been knockout after knockout. He's looking like the Joshua of old, the Joshua that everybody feared, every man feared, the Joshua where people had put him against Tyson Fury as the favorite, and then now you have Ngannou who arguably beat Fury. Honestly, I'm really split between these two. You know, you got to give credit to Francis Ngannou's media team as well because they've done a damn good job um Francis Ngannou telling his story and just all the media with him. Like it just everybody you see everybody saying, you know, maybe I think Joshua might win, but I'm rooting for Ngannou. I mean, he has a whole community behind him. Yeah, and even me, it makes me want to root for Ngannou too because Ngannou just is one of those guys who has that story that just is able to draw you in. And regardless of whatever happens, I think that he should be proud of that, for how far he's come, for what he's done within the sport of fighting, period.
Mhm.
Um, because we've never seen anything like it. As you mentioned, I love how you compared it to swimming and running, Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt. Yeah, that's he's the living embodiment of something like that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it just makes you want to root for him, and regardless, he should definitely be proud. Whatever happens tomorrow night, I think he should be proud of himself, proud of his teams for making it this far. Being top 10 in the heavyweight rankings, I mean that's crazy. That's when you think about it, it's almost absurd, but
Yeah.
he deserves it and whatnot. But yeah, I'm not. I mean, I can see the fight going both ways. Ngannou getting the KO or Joshua getting the KO. I think regardless, this fight is ending in a knockout.
Mhm.
I just don't see it any other way. With the way Joshua has been fighting recently, it's got to be a knockout. With the way Ngannou fights, it's got to be a knockout. Like he just has that power. Tyson Fury was obviously able to just kind of run away. I don't want to say run away, but stay on the outside, kind of outbox him and use the ring to his advantage. But Josh is not that fighter. He's that type of fighter to stay in front of you and fight. Like
Mhm.
that's who he is. So and Ngannou doesn't have enough experience to be able to outbox someone. Unless he shocks the world again and does that. But
Which
you
would
never
be,
know.
I mean, the storylines that would come from that. I mean, that would just be mind-boggling. Sorry about the delay, ladies and gentlemen. Someone ran out of space on their computer, and that would be me. Um, as we were saying about Joshua versus Ngannou, Chino, how do you see this fight playing out?
Yeah, great question. Great to be back. A little small delay, but yeah, I mean, this is a tough one to I'm split, but I think regardless of my heart rooting for Ngannou, my mind and common sense is saying Joshua, just because how serious he, and when you got Joshua who's trained, who's well trained and done everything he can, that's a dangerous man. That man might even beat Tyson Fury as well, especially the way Tyson Fury's been looking recently. Bless you.
Thank you.
But yeah, honestly, I think Joshua knocks out Ngannou, but I don't think it's early. If anything, I think this might be in the latter rounds, around rounds 9 or 10. Um, and likewise, regardless, I think Ngannou can do it around that time too. If Ngannou's gonna do it, I think he'll do it a little bit earlier, around 5 through 8.
Hmm.
But if Joshua does it, I think this is gonna be a war. I really think this is, and that's why I'm so excited because these two guys, you got a guy who's not as experienced in boxing, so all he knows is how to fight. That's what all he knows. And Joshua, that's his style. Lately, just
Hmm.
fight, fight, fight. So I'm so excited. This is bound to be one of those heavyweight clashes, those heavyweight classics. Um, yeah, so I think Joshua wins this by KO. Rounds 9 and 10. Yeah.
Again, I'm right there with you. My heart really does say Francis Ngannou. My heart with the Pride FC MMA banner on it. So I mean, you obviously know where I'm coming from, but I think a lot of it's going to have to come down with Anthony Joshua's jab and how he utilized that. Because at the end of the day, if it's going to be through volume, if it's going to go a long time, I definitely see Anthony Joshua having the advantage here. I do think, however, if Ngannou is able to properly counter his jab, I think you could get him out of there early. I mean, his power is undeniable. It's some of the greatest we've ever seen. And I think if Anthony Joshua is defensively more responsible than Tyson Fury, I could definitely see him getting away with the win, especially with him being faster than Tyson Fury. I think that's going to play into his benefit, but I think my brain is leaning towards Anthony Joshua, and that's evidently where I believe it's going to go. I love Francis Ngannou, and if he wins, I will be absolutely ecstatic. But at the same time, it's still kind of hard to pick Ngannou, despite how well he did against potentially undertrained and underperforming Tyson Fury. So I'd say Anthony Joshua. I'd say I mean, this one's going 12 rounds, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yep.
I'm going to say round 10 or 11. I think it's going to go real late
Yeah,
because
I don't
if
know.
he's as
Yeah, I
focused as he
agree.
says he is, I think his cardio is going to be just fine. That being
Yep.
Joshua.
Yeah, definitely. This is just one of those fights that I see. I just don't see it ending early, but I see it ending somewhere along the line. But so yeah, it's exciting. But yeah, so we'll see what happens tomorrow night. It will be a little bit early since it's in Saudi Arabia. Supposedly, I mean, I believe they were saying that it'll probably be like 5:30 Central Time, that which is 6:30 Eastern Time, that the main event will probably happen.
I was
So I
just gonna
mean,
say,
we'll
like
see.
the entire card starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time. That is obviously 8 a.m. for my friends over on the West Coast. And if it does go that late, I know boxing events certainly do take longer, and the time in between bouts is longer as well. I hope it at least gets to a point where people are off work, out of school, and are able to actually watch what happens because especially the fact that it's on a Friday makes it a bit tougher, but I think it'll still I think it'll still be highly viewed, highly profitable for each fighter. And man, I just can't wait for this. I can't wait for this card. It's going to be a great one.
Yeah. Okay. So from what I'm seeing, actually, interesting. Is the main event expected to be around 6:30 p.m. Eastern time? Okay. So yeah, like I was saying, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Because dang, it starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time, which is jeez, that's
Exactly.
man. I have a class at like 1:30 to 4:30. I'm going to be begging the teacher to end it quick. I'll
Yeah,
be
I know.
running to
Seriously,
watch it.
like I gotta go.
Yo,
I'm gonna watch
facts.
two dudes scrap it out real quick. It was
Yeah,
like I'll
yeah,
see you next week, but I mean,
yeah. They're
no, I
gonna
just
call me
can't wait.
crazy.
This whole weekend's gonna be insane. But the
Yeah.
week leading up to this fight has been crazy, hasn't it, too, Chino?
I mean, yeah. I let's Ryan Garcia. Let's dive into that. I mean, first of all, your initial thoughts of everything that's he's been saying, what's been going on with his raspy voice, with just the stuff he's been posting. I mean, wow.
Let's just say I'll use the line that Dana White and Sean O'Malley have both
I
used
was just thinking
ad
that.
nauseum. Cocaine ain't cheap,
Yep,
expensive. Cocaine
very
is not
expensive.
cheap. And I
Yeah,
think there are a lot of observations that people are missing in the past few weeks. I mean, even you could go as far as the past month when we're talking about Ryan Garcia, about how he went on Patrick Bet David's podcast and was acting a fool. He went on the MMA Hour and was acting a fool. And before, when he was taking these interviews with, for example, like Bradley Martin or the Nelk Boys, the reason I say that is because it was a significant period of time ago where he was still promoting his fight with Tank. And not only did he look and sound different, I mean, obviously he was less puffy, he was a lot more trimmed. He wasn't like he obviously wasn't partying as much, he wasn't drinking as heavy, he wasn't smoking as much weed. But I think a lot of it that I noticed had to do with what he was saying specifically. He was hell bent on changing the entire trajectory of the sport of boxing through picking Tank Davis as his next fight because there was such a lack of people that were actually fighting each other. I remember being sat in sports management with you or leadership in sports, the class we had
yeah.
together, and we were just sat there talking like, dude, they're actually fighting each other. Like, this is going to be absolutely massive. Like, we were just like, dude, they really signed the agreement. And then we were talking about the whole thing. And we were so excited as to where the sport of boxing is going. And then, not even a year later, we have Ryan Garcia calling out UFC champions. I mean, the Devin Haney fight, I still feel like is a legit fight, but he's looking for all these money fights. He's looking for all these opportunities that are going to gain him money rather than try to bolster his legacy, which is what he talked at nauseum about in the lead up to his fight with Tank Davis. So I think that given the circumstances and the context with which everything is has been happening, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm surprised, but I'm a bit disappointed with where his aspirations are going as a fighter.
Yeah. I mean, I can have said it any better. I completely agree. I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, we were in class, and man, it takes me back because it's only a year ago, but
Yeah.
so much has happened since then within our lives and also the sport of boxing. And
Hmm.
Ryan seemed like he was going down this trajectory of just changing the world, changing the sport of boxing, making it come back to this golden age. But I think boxing is starting to come back to this golden era right now. Um, a different era for sure, but change is necessary within anything within life. I think we all know that as a statement to be true. But with that being said, I mean, Garcia has been on this weird tangent of conspiracy of you notice his raspy voice. I mean, he's acting a clown on I mean the MMA hour, as you mentioned in other podcasts, and then the post that he's been putting up lately has just been so strange. I mean, writing down gibberish, videos of him. So, it started off great in the sense, and what I mean by this is he exposed Devin Haney versus Tank, the infamous sparring session. He got the tape, he exposed it, and at first, you know what, that was a great comeback from the press conference with Devin Haney. Um, but then after that, and then he came back again, posting a video of his dad smoking weed, which they had just mentioned they were against smoking and drugs and whatnot, right? And then his dad is out here smoking weed, right? So exposes his dad, and then after that starts going into weird posts of just basically saying gibberish. Um,
I
and
mean,
then
did you
uh,
see that
yeah,
one like Twitter live video he had a week ago, like on the 29th, where he was like, I'm sorry if I'm talking real slow right now. It's cause I'm high, but I mean, and he's like
Yeah.
asking what's next. He doesn't even think to mention the fact that he has a scheduled bout against Devin Haney on 420, but he is literally talking about he's overlooking Devin Haney for Sean O'Malley in an MMA match. What is happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
This
I
is
I
this
don't
is
know.
Conor McGregor 2.0. It's awful. Like it's just disheartening to watch. Like it genuinely hurts me. Like
Yeah. I mean I couldn't agree more. I mean it is very sad because you know and I'm going to refer to this guy Wade Concept to those of you who know he's a boxing analyst mainly with influencer boxing. Um, but yeah, shout out to Wade, by the way. If he ever watches, that would be dope. But
oh,
yeah, I mean, he said it best, and he said, I'm worried for Ryan Garcia. I don't think he should fight against Devin Haney. And he put out a whole video to that, which I am starting to agree with that because it seems like his mental side of him is just not there. The mentality, his mental state just doesn't seem right. He seems obviously like he's been partying, doing the drugs. He just does not seem like himself. I mean, Ryan Garcia, like literally maybe a couple months ago to now, I mean, he just does not, and we know he's had problems with his mental health, and we've seen this time again with celebrities such as Oscar De La Hoya, who was seen as a golden boy and then he was obviously on drugs, on cocaine and whatnot. And then now you have Ryan Garcia arguably going down the same path as Oscar De La Hoya and many, many other celebrities have gone down. So I agree with Wade. I don't know if Ryan Garcia should be fighting Devin Haney. Although as much as I want that fight to happen, I just don't think that Ryan is in the right state of mind. He's been saying so much crazy things lately, and I do worry for him. And I would hate to see something bad happen to him the night of the fight because he just wasn't there. Um, so I'm definitely worried for his health, and I think that to those of you who are defending Ryan Garcia, I mean, the proof is right there. The proof is in the pudding. Just go to his Instagram account, go to his Twitter, go see. The proof is right there. He's obviously going through something, and and I don't mean to go personal with Ryan Garcia, but one of his baby mamas, she went out and posted on her story. She said, this is not a joke. This is actually serious. This is Ryan Garcia is going through something. Um, so you literally have someone who's really close to Ryan Garcia coming out and saying this is not a joke. This is real. So it worries me even more because I don't know. I don't know. Well, I've gone on a whole rant, but what do you think, Steve?
like lit like he's saying some of the weirdest stuff ever. He's out here saying, "Oh, I want to have 20 kids." Did
I
you
did not
hear
hear
that?
about that. I
I don't know.
just wow.
I don't know how many baby mamas there are out there, but I mean, I'm not trying to make it go personal with Ryan Garcia either, but
Yeah.
it got to the point where Sean Strickland tweeted out in support of Ryan Garcia. He came out and said that mental health is not a serious joke, and he had alluded to the reason why he's in this spot right now is because of the people around him. It's because of those he's associated himself with. And I think at this point, it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you have Oscar De La Hoya, when you're the Golden Boy's Golden Boy, you don't think he's going to impart some of the similar stuff he did onto you? Again,
Yeah.
the goal is you want to point your pupil in the right direction. And I think Oscar De La Hoya has completely squandered that opportunity. And
Yeah.
he could
Yeah.
have done right by Ryan Garcia and showed him where he made his mistakes, yet he has instead dragged Ryan Garcia into his own, which I
Yeah.
feel
And
is a
yeah.
tremendous disservice to Ryan.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And I gotta say, I do feel bad for Derek James, Ryan Garcia's trainer. I mean, I've known. him and his story for when he's been training Jermell Charlo and Errol Spence Jr. I mean, I've seen he's one of those strict trainers, and he's not gonna train you if he doesn't think that you're worth it. And obviously Ryan Garcia came to him, and he looked a lot better his last fight. But I do feel bad for him because I wonder what's going through Derek James's head right now as he's seeing his fighter go down a spiral. I mean, what do you think that does to a trainer seeing your fighter going down? I mean, what can he do to help that? I mean what are your thoughts on that coming from his perspective? Someone that's so close to Ryan Garcia, someone who's literally preparing him for arguably the fight of his life. So
So I think it depends on the type of trainer. With the guy, when you're talking about Derek James, I'm just making sure I'm saying this right.
yes, Derek James, yes.
Just making sure when we're talking about Derek James and the type of fighter he typically trains and what type of person he is, how he's on the stricter side of things, I think this could play into this is the more likely of the situation. It's kind of the fact that James will most likely, I mean, effectively give up on Ryan if he continues to act the way he does. Because if he's about the business, if he's about the fighting, rather than all about the extracurriculars that have any place in boxing, it's going to lose his interest. I don't know if Ryan Garcia is going to be able to stay in that camp acting the way he is right now. Again, like there's a reason he didn't stay with Canelo and his trainer. So I think it's going to be a really, really careful few months. If Ryan's able to get out of this, which I hope he does as soon as possible, it's going to be better for boxing once he does. But it's made even worse for the fact that he's talking about another fight ahead of the biggest fight of his career, which is against Devin Haney. And I've had many concerns with how this fight was going to go, especially looking at the way Ryan's shoulder roll looked against his previous opponent, who's currently escaping, Oscar Duarte. Especially the way it looked against him, it wasn't the cleanest. It wasn't the most polished. He didn't look like a Floyd Mayweather, or he didn't look like a Shakur Stevenson. He didn't look that sharp. He looked like he was just learning it. And if unless he's this crazy and he's trying to act this crazy for clicks, and he's just the highly unlikely portion of this situation is that he's actually training. I just doubt that it's going to get any better. And he's fighting a guy who is miles above Oscar Duarte. He's fighting against one of the greatest of this generation. So I think this is going to be kind of if it keeps going the way it is going to be detrimental to his career. And it's a bit concerning, especially since he is effectively still the face of boxing, even though they said the fight with him and Tank was going to determine the face of boxing.
Yeah, no, and then you got Devin Haney who currently mourning the death of his grandma as well too, and I know his grandma was such a big part of his boxing journey and whatnot. So Devin Haney is not gonna come in here to play around. He's if anything, he's gonna want to win in honor of her. So he is not going to play around. I obviously say predictions for another time, but there's just no way that I see the fight going any other way. Devin Haney is a dangerous man now,
Uh,
and Ryan Garcia is acting a fool in front of Devin Haney, who if he's not careful enough, he will get knocked out by Devin Haney and Devin Haney who's coming off of many personal things within his life, as I mentioned with his grandma. I mean, that's as serious as it gets with Devin Haney. Devin's not gonna stop. He's not gonna quit. Ryan Garcia is acting a fool, and he's asking for Sean O'Malley. It doesn't add up. So it's gonna be interesting to see what if this fight does happen. What's the aftermath with Ryan Garcia's personal life with his trainer? What's next for him? I mean I don't know. It's bizarre. It really is. So I'm curious to see what news will come out this following week with Ryan Garcia, if there is any, but we'll see.
my prediction for this is Ryan Garcia enters rehab. And no, I'm just kidding. But I mean, I think genuinely he looked drunk at his press conference with Devin Haney. He's calling out for fights that there's no way he's gonna win. Again, if Ngannou could be Tyson Fury, maybe Ryan Garcia could be Shawn. No, 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 no. That's not how it works.
Nope.
The when I say, and I'm not saying that a boxer isn't capable of doing well in MMA. I'm more so saying that with the training available and with the lack of multi sport experience in terms of martial arts, there's not a lot going on there. If Rolly Romero, who is a legit judoka, wants to go into MMA and try his hand in there, he could do very well. I think he could be genuinely good in that space because if you've seen him do judo, he's not bad. He's genuinely decent. But with Ryan, he doesn't have any other experience to linger on. Again, Devin Haney said one punch. Imagine not being just limited to your hands. You got to deal with the kicks, the takedowns, the knees, the elbows, everything. I just
Yeah.
Ryan, what are we doing here? Like, like I
Yeah.
don't see like okay, you're trying to make money, you're trying to do what Connor did. That's all well and good, but it's not like we're not going to treat it with the merit that you think it deserves.
Yeah. No, I agree, but we'll see what happens. But on to our final news, which is just some
Okay.
massive, massive thing that just came out today. Jake Paul versus
Oh,
Mike Tyson. What am I even saying? Steve, what is this happening? Like, what am I saying? Like,
I'm sorry, the glasses had to come off because we're delving into complete obscurity here. I mean, I just don't think that it could get any weirder than this.
yeah,
You
yeah. I mean,
have one
this
of
is
the
just,
greatest
yeah,
heavyweights who's ever done it in Mike Tyson, who has nothing left to prove, who fought 4 years ago against Roy Jones Jr. and looked like an old man. Now going up against not another old man. He's going up against a 27-year-old puncher who's also, still showing that he is capable of throwing punches and capable of being a relatively competent boxer against other people who know how to fight, maybe not as much in boxing or train as much in boxing, but at least people who are aware of what throwing a punch is and aware of knowing what defense is. So, with the exception of Ben Askren, but I will say there's no way that any sanctioning body in the United States should make this fight happen. There's
yeah, yeah,
it's 30 years difference here. We're talking 30 years of age difference, not of experience. I mean, experience is a given, but it's 30 years of oh my gosh. It's just like I don't understand how this even became a thing. If anyone was gonna do it, it was gonna be Jake Paul, but they have to probably sanction this in a Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, or in a Tokyo, Japan, or in anywhere else that isn't the United States, because I highly doubt that this fight is going to ever get sanctioned in the United States. It's just an impossibility in my
yeah, yeah. No, I don't get it. Like, whoever is allowing this, I gotta know, are you good? Like, what is the thought process? Who allowed this? Like, I need to know. I don't understand this. On top of that, it's not on the Zone too, which I doubt the Zone would allow something like this to happen. It's on Netflix for free, not pay-per-view. So obviously,
It's for free?
there's, yeah, it's not gonna be
Okay,
pay-per-view,
good.
but
Because at that point, they couldn't sell that to anyone. There's no way.
yeah, I don't want to see Mike Tyson get knocked out by Jake Paul, which is most likely the outcome. Jake Paul is he's been active. He's young. Mike Tyson, on the other hand, he's old. Yeah, he was the baddest man on the planet, but he was not is
Mhm.
anymore. He's no longer that same guy. We saw it against Roy Jones Jr., which was literally like a couple years ago, and he looked. I mean, he looked like an old man. Evander Holyfield came out and fought. I think it was Belfort,
Yeah, Vitor
Vito
Belfort.
Belfort. Yeah, so Evander Holyfield came out and fought him, and he's in all damn near 60 as well, and got knocked out.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be the same story. It doesn't matter. Jake Paul has experience. Jake Paul can box. Jake Paul has power. He's fast. Um, it doesn't matter that he's not. He's it doesn't matter that he's Jake Paul. It doesn't matter that he's not a like a really, really good boxer. Jake Paul can throw a punch. And anyone that can throw a punch, when you're fighting a guy who's 60, who was the baddest man in the planet, he's 60 years old coming off of his couch. I mean, Tyson's not gonna win that. I, there's just it's ridiculous. I need to know who sanctioned this, who's allowing this. I just don't understand it. I don't think this fight should be happening. It's really, really ridiculous, and I think that this is it's almost disrespectful to a lot of fight fans just because why ruin your health even? I mean, Tyson is he's still in good health, but why take the risk when you don't have to? It doesn't make sense. He should live the rest of his life to relax. He doesn't need to fight and he shouldn't. There's a reason that there is an age limit for fighting. There's a reason that you don't let damn near 60-year-olds come close to boxing because they just they
It's a
just don't
life or
got
death
it.
thing at that point.
It really is. You get knocked out. It really, when it comes to that point, it really you can get knocked down, and that can, I mean, alter everything for the rest of your life. That one punch is so much more that much older, and I don't think people realize that, and they're just making a mockery of Tyson and a mockery of his life, and it's um, almost like a toy. Is it frozen?
No, no, I'm here. Oh, oh no. Here we go again. Chino? Oh, Chino? Bro, we cannot win to lose. What the fuck is happening here?
Bro, I'm like talking, and then I just see you freeze, and I was just like, "Oh no!" And I just started talking to. I was like, "Uh-oh, this is." What's the last thing you heard me say?
The last thing was it was there's a reason there's an age limit for boxing, and there's a reason that you don't let people like this touch the ring. What the biggest thing for me is
Yeah,
that you are okay. There are two conflicting narratives in boxing right now. There are those that want to establish its former glory and its former esteem, and then there's those that want to make it a spectacle like WWE. Again, I think
yep,
the Paul brothers would be great for WWE. You could already see Logan doing very well in that, and I think that's a great area for him to be in. But don't bring boxing into this. Don't bring former all-time greats, former and current cultural champions. Let just Mike Tyson go and do his hot boxing podcast. I don't want to hear that the gods of war have called me to battle again. Like, I don't need to hear that. I don't need to hear that. Like, I'm like, Mike, just go train, please. And Jake, please, like, start fighting actual boxers. People will respect you then. That's what I think.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it really is a mockery and almost disrespectful to fight fans, and disrespectful to Mike Tyson, and which he probably doesn't realize himself, but this is just absurd. I mean, it just what it looks like to me is just businesses using him as a toy, as an object. This just shows how, I mean, it's right there. Like they're obviously using Mike Tyson. They can care less if he died. More promotion for more marketing if that were the case, right? It seems like that. But it's just terrible. It really is. And I don't think this should be happening. It's a mockery, it's disrespectful. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm worried for Mike Tyson, but I mean, we'll see what I'm hoping that I hope Mike Tyson gets injured in training so that this never happens.
I
I
could
don't think this.
I would be more okay with that. There's no way it would be absolutely criminal if this fight was ever sanctioned by anybody, let alone in the United States, in the entire world. I think this will be a complete travesty, and I really hope it doesn't happen.
Agreed, 100%.
Well, anyway, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in to Slingin Leather. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button for more of Southern California's official combat sports show. And please follow us on Twitter and Instagram, where the links will be in the description below. Remember to protect yourself at all times. Enjoy your double fight week. We will be back very soon for a second episode predicting UFC 299, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Peace.